As usual, I start by saying thank you to our subscribers. And please keep on helping us to share our podcast, our blog posts, and encourage your contacts to join. We need the numbers. Thank you very much for supporting us. Today, the big news, where I am in West Africa, in Ghana, the big news is about the xenophobic attack in South Africa. A few days ago, our people in South Africa started another orgy of xenophobic attacks. I watched a friend send a clip to me where a Ghanaian was very badly beaten up. And honestly, it's difficult for a person like myself who has spent a considerable number of years, efforts to educate our people to see this thing happening in 2026. It is saddening, it is disheartening, it is distressing. And no matter whichever way we try to dice this thing, I mean, it's just intolerable that Africans will be attacking fellow Africans in 2026. Despite all the efforts, despite all the statements, despite all these declarations, despite everything, we have people in Africa getting up, organizing to go and beat up their fellow Africans. It's so shameful that I don't even know where to begin to slice it. Yesterday, my friend Black Rasta invited me for a discussion on his program. It's one of the most popular radio showman in Ghana, and it's one of the most devoted Pan-Africanists. We had a very nice discussion, and as usual, it provoked a lot of questions and answers. He asked me what I felt about after watching those nasty scenes of Africans getting beaten by fellow Africans on African soil. I told him that there are several ways I try to analyze these things, but primarily I think it's due to lack of education. He asked me why, and I said, for reason best known to our plantation managers, those we call presidents in Africa, they took away history from our curriculum. So we have a situation where Africans grew up not knowing anything about their history. And to these plantation managers, it never occurs to them that the people without history, we have no future. It's as simple as that. You're building on what happened yesterday. But to these plantation managers, they took advice from the IMF and the World Bank, destroy our educational system, took our history. He asked me for elaboration, and I tried to oblige him. Why do we Africans have such a low esteem of ourselves? It is because we never study our history. We don't know anything about our past. So we appear to the world as, or we present ourselves to the world as supplicants, beggars. The ideas that we use today, most of it were generated by our ancestors in ancient Egypt. We take religion, for example. We take the mysteries of, for example, science and everything. Those were ideas that the ancient Egyptians invented. I'm not making things up. Those of you who claim to be Christians and wielding your Bible, go and look at the 42 laws of math and compare it to what is your Bible was presented to you in your Bible as 10 commandments. I mean, it's just a plagiarized version of what our ancestors in Egypt presented to us. But because we we were not taught our history. We present our foreign ideas were presented to us as originals, and we run away with it. And I blame how we structure our education systems in Africa. Every European look up to Rome and Greek as his inheritance. What do we have in Africa? We were brainwashed into thinking that our history started with Mungo Park and Richard Lane, whatever, discovering our rivers and discovering us. That is mostly what is taught in African schools, and that is what I mean. We have been crippled mentally. That is our major problem. We don't know who we are, and we're not even willing to discover ourselves. In many of my writings, I've tried to present some of the books that have given me enlightenment. Today, I'm going to show you a few of them. This is the African origin of civilization by the late Sheikh Anta Diop. It's a great book to read. In this book, he linked Africa, present Africa, to ancient Egypt scientifically. He gave examples of how we can trace ourselves back to Egypt, and what he concluded was, until we can, our intellectual, our scholars can do more research and explore this aspect of our civilization, we'll be hanging up in the air without roots. So it's a book that I will recommend to every African to go get read. The African origin of it is a scientifically and very well documented. It was Sheikh Anta Diop's PhD thesis. So it's not a fanciful things someone concocted. No. Get it and read it. You'll be educated, and it's for your own benefit. And when I look at what happens to us in Africa, this is another book from the great man, The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, Sheikh Anta Diop. It is a book that must be found on every literate African library. Please, do yourself a favor. Get these good books. If you are educated enough, you know that Africa, wherever you, especially I have traveled a lot throughout West Africa, we are culturally very united people. We do things the same way. We celebrate the same way. We have the same festival. We share so many things in common. But because of our miseducation and because we have been so brainwashed into thinking that we are separate people, we accepted it. And unfortunately, the more educated we claim to be with our diplomas and our whatever, the more alienated we are from our history. We're not interested, which is very tragic. So, and that's as touched on that aspect. Let me show you another great book which every African must have in our library. The Destruction of Black Africa Civilization. That's by Chancellor Williams. This is, if I find the time, I will do a review of it. I reviewed the African origin of civilization. You can find it on my blog. I will find time to do a review of this great book. No, honestly, people have really our pioneers did their best to straighten our history out. It is left for us to read them, to read what they wrote, what they took efforts to write for us. I mentioned lack of education has been responsible for this xenophobic, this tribalistic tendencies that rear the ugly-est in Africa now and then. If you are properly educated as an African, you see, the very idea of seeing a fellow African as a non-human being to be chased around and beaten up will not occur to you. But because of your lack of education, you see your fellow Africans as a threat. And the funny thing is that in South Africa now we have white people joining these xenophobes to chase black Africa on African soil. Could that happen in Europe or in Arabia? That was one of the I choose that as one of the areas I explored with the Black Rasta yesterday. And then we move on to the question of hypocrisy. Last year, a very ugly incident happened in Ghana where an Igbo gentleman who is legally resident in Ghana, well established, he is well known. He was honored with a chieftaincy title by his community. And this was enough to stir the anger of Ghanaian xenophobes. And we saw them last year shouting and Nigeria must go, Igbo must go, this and that. And Nigeria were attacked in Ghana last year. Very few Ghanaian media people, very few Ghanaian spokespeople, very few influential Ghanaians came out to condemn this xenophobic attack. Very few of them. So what I told Black Rasta yesterday is that I was so disappointed with my Ghanaian colleagues. When this thing happened last year, they could have organized and condemned it. So 3 days ago, I watched them on TV, listened to them on radio, getting angry and huffing and puffing about xenophobic attack in South Africa against Ghanaians. That's our problem in Africa, our hypocrisy. Principles cannot be divided. You are either for or against what is just. Yeah? Xenophobic is wrong. It is not only wrong when it's done to Ghanaians. It is wrong whenever it occurs as a human being. I always sign off my articles with this declaration. I am unconditionally opposed to any tribalism, racism, or xenophobic or fascism. Unconditionally. Wherever it happens, I will condemn it. My fellow Ghanaian colleagues last year, they sat back, watched Nigerian property being destroyed by irate Ghanaians. They did nothing. Suddenly, the shoe is on the other foot. Now they're feeling it. And now we have to condemn it. No, principles are principles. Let's get that into our head. Yeah? We shouldn't wait until something bad happens to us before we condemn it. What is not good, no matter to whom it is perpetrated. Let's stop the dishonesty. Let's stop the hypocrisy. Xenophobic attack should be condemned wherever it occurs. That's the principle we all should maintain. Yeah, that's what I told Black Rasta yesterday, and I hope the Ghanaian media people will take this thing up seriously. Okay, that's about the xenophobic attack, and this discussion move on to various aspects of life, and I always find it useful to have a conversation with Black Rasta. He's one of the most authentic human beings that I know, and we relate very well. And the questions and answers were really, professionally done. And hopefully, those of us who remain committed to the cause of African unity will keep on doing our best. We have no choice. Africa, where do we go from here? This is the only place we can call home. This is the only place a black man should feel comfortable, should feel at home. So if we decide that, we don't like Nigeria, we don't. Another thing I mentioned to Black Rasta yesterday was the very idea of group action organized against a group. It's abominable in my dictionary. It's possible to have a personal quarrel with human beings, but how does people generate the idiocy to go and to see a group of people as enemy? What happened? I mean, the very idea of thinking that, oh, I don't like Igbos, or I don't like Euro, I don't like Nigerians, or I don't like. I mean, it's so silly in my estimation that I don't even know how to define it. What happened to people's brain? My Yoruba people have a proverb which I said on Black Rastas program yesterday. Ojú ẹ̀rùn ó tó gbogbo ẹyẹ fò láì faragbára. It means that the sky is big enough for every bird to fly without touching wings. So instead of looking at Nigeria or Igbo or Ghana and South Africa taking your job, please excuse me, what job are they taking? These are people who come to countries, they create their own jobs, they create employment, they create. So it's, I mean, how many vacancies do you have in Ghana that Igbos are taking or Nigerians are taking? No. I don't know many Nigerians who's employed by the government of Ghana or by the organizations in Ghana. No, they try to create their own jobs. The same thing the Ghanaians who went to South Africa, they're not looking for government handout. No. They're seeking, they create their own space, they create their own jobs, which is benefiting both to the local people and also to themselves. That is what every human being tries to do. So why should it be that whenever we cannot compete or we don't have the skill sets or we don't have the education to improve our lot, instead of getting our acts up to educate ourselves professionally so we can compete, we blame foreigners. It's a very simple way of thinking, but too simplistic. You should try to go and get the skill set so you can create your own job or get a good job. No foreigner is taking your job. Get that into your head. That's my message today to both the xenophobes we have in Ghana and to those we have in South Africa. Go and get properly educated, either professionally, academically, or vocationally. So you can. There's enough space for us in Africa to coexist peacefully. Thank you very much for watching this edition. Until next week, thank you and keep on supporting us with your sharing, the liking, and the subscription. Keep it going. Thank you very much. Bye.